Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Doreen and I'm officially back. So basically I started a YouTube channel, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago, and I really loved it. I loved filming, I loved like the content creating, I loved like the behind the scenes, everything that went into it. Basically I stopped because I got so busy with my work, you know, what makes me money, which is being a lash artist, and I didn't have so much time to devote to YouTube anymore, and I kind of gave up on that. I gave up on social media. I got rid of my personal Instagram and I started focusing more on my business Instagram, and that was kind of what was, you know, occupying my life back in the day. And so I really, you know, dropped everything and just focused on lashing because, you know, I was seeing so much from it and I was getting so busy that I had to devote all my energy there. But as you can probably tell by the title of this video, I now live in LA. I used to live in Toronto. I grew up in Toronto in Canada, and now I live in sunny Los Angeles. And I can't tell you that I'm mad about it because I crave the sun and I've always wanted to be in a sunny place. But yeah, I'm here. So basically, I got married a year ago, thank God, to the most amazing, incredible person on earth, my dear husband. And my husband's born and raised in LA. And, you know, we moved here, we settled here. And I thought I'd do a nice little like introductory, like chill out, you know, I've got my herbal tea up in here type of video just to kind of tell you a little bit about the move to LA. I know a lot of people have asked me about it and like are curious either for themselves or just in general because I mean it's the big city of stars, and I feel like a lot of people do get curious about, you know, what it's like moving to a new city and, you know, the pros, the cons, things like that. So I thought, what better way to reintroduce myself to you guys, whoever's watching, thank you, and to kind of talk about it. So before coming to LA, I always had this like thought that it's like this glamorous sort of like what you see in the movies, like what you see in Hollywood type of city, and essentially it is, you know, when you go to like Beverly Hills and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's just another city. And it's funny because I remember when I first came here, I was like, I hopped at the plane at LAX with my jeans and my cardigan. Welcome to the land of fantasy. Like literally, like that was what was playing in my head. Not that I, like, obviously I would have, you know, settled anywhere else because it doesn't matter where you live. It matters, you know, who you live with and family and things like that. But like in the sense of like coming to like LA and like what I had always thought of it versus what it is, it was such a like different shock. So at first, you know, I thought I was coming to this like gorgeous place, and at first glance it's not that gorgeous. Like at first glance, in my opinion, it's just another city. And I think it also has a lot to do with where you come from. You know, Toronto is a little bit, it's very different. Like, first of all, there's no palm trees, even though I'm obsessed with palm trees, but like the trees are different, nature, like the nature vibe there, the way everything looks is different. Toronto building or style of building is very high rise, everything, all the buildings look a lot newer, at least where I was living. You know, and I came to LA and everything was like low rise and all the buildings look super old, and it was kind of like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, because when I first came to LA, I actually really didn't like it. But as I spent more and more time here, I really have come to realize that it's such an incredible place. And probably like, you know, it's funny because I do know a lot of people that live here, and growing up I knew them and they would always say like, oh, LA is the best, like, oh, I live in the best, and I would kind of just like always be like, okay, like cocky much, like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't really make sense to me. Like I thought they were just being snobby because it's like, you know, like a cool place to live in. But now that I have lived here for a year, I do see the hype. But, you know, at first glance, it doesn't really look like that, depending on where you come from, right? So one of the biggest things that was like a cultural shock to me, again, is the way things are like built here. I know it's not an actual cultural shock, I just don't really know how to define it. The way things are built here, like the build is just so different than Toronto. So that was like a big thing that, you know, I had to kind of get used to. Not that it matters, but I'm just saying like the look of things. You know, it's definitely very like older looking as opposed to, you know, other places that I've been to in the US or even, you know, back home in Toronto. It's really dirty here. I mean, I hate to say it again, I love it here, but it's really dirty here. Like in Canada, everything is like squeaky clean, and like you rarely ever see any like things on the floor. You know, it's just super clean, super organized, and here it's like a little bit, you know, a little bit on the wilder side. You know, people here don't have a problem. I'm not generalizing, but I'm saying like I've seen a lot of people here litter and kind of just like throw things on the floor, and it's just something that I'm like so not used to, because in Toronto people, I don't know, they're very like proper and adequate, you know? Another big difference that I saw is the safety. LA is really not such a safe place to live in. I was so used to walking around everywhere back home, and you know, if I had to, like I lived in a suburban area but in Toronto, but it was still pretty central, like if I had to get somewhere. So if I didn't want to take my car, you know, I would take public transit, I would walk. So it's not like that here. Public transit here is not really, you know, the preferred way of transportation. Most people here do have a car, which is again so not like Toronto, because in Toronto it's a lot like New York, where people do use a lot of the public transit. Like if you're going downtown, it doesn't really make sense to drive, it makes sense to take the subway and things like that. So it's really different in that sense. When I started working here, when I started lashing here, I was seeing all these clients, and like every single one of my clients, and I was seeing over 100 clients, they each had a pepper spray. Like literally maybe one or two girls didn't, but out of the 100 girls, literally, I'm not lying, everyone had a pepper spray. And I was like, is this a thing? Like, do I need to like purchase one? I ended up getting one, but I was like, I can't believe like this is a thing, you know? So safety is a big thing here. And LA is one of those places where like you could be in one area that's like really high end or, you know, safe or whatever, and you can literally turn a street and you'll be in the ghetto. So you have to be very careful of like where you are and what you're doing. Obviously, if you're new here, you know, if you're from here and you know like your way around, then it's different. But for me, it was always something that I was like nervous about. I don't know why I always heard like, oh, LA people are so snobby, they're so stuck up. I don't think so at all. I mean, I really don't think so. I think the people here are really nice. I think they're friendly, a lot more friendly than Canada. Like I think in Canada, people are super nice and sweet and proper and polite, but they won't go out of their way, at least from my experience, to like befriend you or be friendly with you or like talk with you. I don't know, I feel like here if you run into a person, I don't know, somewhere, they'll actually go beyond just being proper, like hi and bye. They'll be a lot more friendly. That's my personal experience. So yeah, obviously like in certain places of the city and in certain group of friends or circles or, you know, more like elite, if you will, elitist groups, maybe you will feel a little bit kind of like, because it is like the land of like, you know, the fame and fortune. So, you know, if you are kind of in a crowd where there's, you know, those kind of people, then you may feel that way. But I feel like in general, people here are really fine, you know? So I haven't had any problems with that. This next thing is something that really breaks my heart. And when I say cultural shock, this is where, I mean, listen, I'll be the first to admit it. Like maybe I'm sheltered, maybe I was very sheltered, but like coming here broke my heart because nobody ever talks about, you know, I know people that live in LA and I have friends here and things like that, and nobody ever talks about like the homeless problem here. And I feel like that was the one thing that I still have a very difficult time dealing with. I mean, I'm starting to get a little bit adjusted, but first of all, it breaks my heart. Like it will literally, like I will drive by a homeless person and I will start crying in my car because I just can't see that type of stuff. It really, really gets to me. And you know, I never really knew how intense this problem was here. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, in Toronto, yeah, you'll see your homeless person here and there, mainly like more like downtown, but in the suburbs, for example, like you will not see a homeless person. Like I will have to pay you and you will not find a homeless person. So I was really interested in like what has caused this problem, this like homelessness problem. And I started watching documentaries and things like that. And from what it seems, it is because you know, the living here is like really, really expensive. So people started losing their homes throughout times, as well as the weather here is just really great. So, you know, people that were homeless in other states kind of immigrated their way here or migrated their way here. So, you know, I definitely get that, but it just breaks my heart. And, you know, I always tell my husband that God willing, if I ever get the opportunity to, you know, make good money, that's the one place that I want to really put my effort in and my time in, because I think homelessness is just like nobody should be left without a home. But to be honest, I have learned to really, really love this place to the point that at this point I actually love it even way more than Toronto. And I'll tell you why. First and foremost, I don't even have to explain too much. I mean, the weather makes such a big difference. And if you're someone, I'm sure if you live here you appreciate it, but I think you'll appreciate it 10 times more, a million times more, whatever, if you come from a cold place. Because the problem is that when you come from a cold place, literally 5 to 6 months of the year, you can't really do much. I mean, yeah, like you could go to bars and restaurants, but it really influences your day-to-day. It influences going out and being able to do things. Like I literally used to hibernate for like 5 to 6 months of the year. And it sucks, you know? So being here, the weather not only is amazing, but it permits so many different activities. Like there's just always something to do here. There's beaches, there's hikes, there's like different outdoor malls and like shopping strips. Just literally like museums, like just like random like places like trails, lakes. There's just so much you can do, and obviously these things exist in other countries and in other states, but because the weather is so great here, it's like awesome because you could really enjoy them every single day as opposed to like 3 months of the year or 4 months of the year. I think the food here is amazing, like the culinary experience, like the restaurants here, the bars here. There's some awesome bars here and like outdoor pools and things like that, like, you know, at hotels and things like that. Also, I learned that there is like, if you do want that like glitz glam, like, you know, fun, you know, Beverly Hills vibe, then that's where you go, and you know, that's the beauty in it. But if you also want to get a little bit of like a suburban vibe, you can go to the Valley, and that's something that I really love, like having that balance. Like kind of like, come to think of it, if this entire city was like Hollywood vibes, and I say Hollywood as in not like the city, but like Hollywood as we know it, like in the movies, it'd be cool, but like it's not real life, you know? And it's funny because I always tell my friends and my family and, you know, people that ask me like, oh, what is it like living here? I'm like, honestly, it's just another city. And it's true, it's just another city. It has amazing things and amazing perks, but at the end of the day, like, it's a regular city, and I've learned to really, really love that. When I'm in LA, I strangely started to feel it as home. Like when I first came here, I was like, you know what? How am I gonna ever feel like I'm home? Like it doesn't feel like home. And, you know, slowly but surely, you know, time makes sense out of everything, if that makes sense. So, you know, that's kind of what it's been like for me. My favorite things to do here is definitely to go to the beach. I love the beach, you know, Malibu, Venice, Santa Monica, Marina Del Rey. Like there's so many beautiful places here. I love going to like little lakes. Like there's a place called Westlake, and it's just like the most gorgeous, peaceful place. And then of course, like if we're ever in the mood for something a little bit more fun, then we go to Hollywood, West Hollywood, you know, the city, things like that. We do live in the Valley, and I love it. Like I love the quietness. It reminds me of home in the sense that I'm used to living in the suburbs. I'm not used to living like in the city of Toronto. I was always in the well, I actually grew up in the city of Toronto, and then I moved to the suburbs when I was 16, but I love the suburbs. Like I'm more of a suburban girl as opposed to like a city girl, even though everyone thinks I'm a city girl. But yeah, like if you want to live in the city, you can live in the city, but if you want like something more chill, you can go to the Valley. And I love those like two splits. They do exist in Toronto as well, but you feel it a little bit more here. And yeah, overall, it's a great place to live in. Like I said, it's super expensive, but I do think that in terms of like business opportunities, there's a lot more business opportunities here, and I think it's because there's just so many people here. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I think the amount of people in California alone, or no, I think the people in LA alone, like the number of people that live here is the number of people that live in all of Canada. And I may be mistaken, but it's like something along those lines. Like, there's just so many people that live here. And in my opinion, it allows for so much more room to grow and to grow your business and to flourish here, whatever it is that you want to do. You know, when I first came here, I got really nervous because it took me, you know, 2 years to build up my clientele back in Toronto. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to start from scratch here. Like, I'm not down. And when I first started, I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, it took time, but honestly, within months, I was, you know, pretty much fully booked. So I absolutely love that. I appreciate that. And I do recognize that, you know, it's because of where we live. Like, it's here in LA that, you know, it enables me to do that because, first of all, everybody here cares about how they look. So if you're in the beauty industry, it's a great place to be in. But also, like I said, in general, there's so many people here that, like, there's so many business opportunities, and that's kind of like my experience. All right, guys, that is my tea on Los Angeles. Everything that I've experienced here so far has been really positive. Like I said, it got off on like the wrong start a little bit, not in a bad way. I just wasn't like, oh my God, LA. But I definitely, you know, have come to really love it and appreciate it. And I'll definitely do like a visitor guide if you're ever here visiting and wanting to like see certain like classic touristy places. Then I'll definitely do a video on that. But as for the rest of the videos, I'm gonna be doing lifestyle, beauty, fashion. I'm gonna be doing like little tea talks where I just give you, you know, a little bit of, you know, what's on my mind, advice, things like that, or just things that I'm going through. I'm gonna be vlogging, God willing. So I hope you enjoy the ride with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and also, you know, give this video a thumbs up because it's gonna help me out. Don't forget to leave a comment telling me if you've ever been to LA and what your favorite part was. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you very soon. Bye.